Hello and welcome to this week's episode of CBTV. Earlier this week I was a guest on the ABC's Q&A show, and one of the topics of conversation was the views of US environmentalist Bill McKibben. Mr. McKibben is of the opinion that institutions should divest themselves of any investments in fossil fuel companies, especially coal companies. Now, this is an idea that is completely ridiculous. Starving our coal industry of capital investment would be dangerous and irresponsible. On Q&A, he said that Australia should look at using wind and solar power as alternative sources of energy instead of expanding the coal mining industry. Now, wind and solar simply cannot provide our baseload energy requirements, and our cheap and abundant coal is the greatest competitive advantage our country has if we are allowed to use it to produce cheap electricity. Mr. McKibben wants people to stop investing in the Australian coal companies that produce 75% of Australia's electricity. He wants people to stop investing in an industry that, in the last 10 years, has provided the Australian government with revenue of $210 billion through taxes and royalties. The Australian coal industry is our second highest export earner and has contributed to our economy by investing $125 billion in Australia. It also employs approximately 250,000 Australians and supports all of us by delivering the cheapest electricity generation available. Wind and solar aren't reliable, and they're a darn sight more expensive. So why would we foist this additional burden on our households when so many families are already struggling to make ends meet? Also, we have to ask ourselves, would it make much difference to the environment? Closing down our coal exports would only see other countries fill the gap, to the detriment of Australian jobs and the environment. Mr. McKibben wants Australian investors to cease supporting an industry that supports Australia in favour of a fanciful green dream. Now, we're lucky to live in a country in which the resources we need are available to us. It would be madness to turn our backs on an industry that creates jobs and wealth for us all. That's CBTV. I'm Cory Bernardi.